Hi there. Against your better judgment, you've decided to watch episode 125 of the Doofy Doo Talk Through of Shiren, the Wanderer. Hey there, I'm back again, recording another episode here in this desert. I'm in the 70s. The 70s. It's a dangerous time in a man's life. I talked before about comparing a run-through phase final puzzle to years in your life. Oh, there we go, Jetfowl. We're at the point now, even these death heads, they do so much damage. I almost have to use some kind of item, because if I fight just one of them at the end of the fight, I'll be almost dead. When you're like 70 and you know that just one fall, you could crack your hip open and just like bleed out and die, you have to be super careful. I remember being confused when I was a little kid. When my grandma was like walking and she fell, and I was like, I fall all the time, Grandma, it's no big deal. But it was a big deal because if she cracked her hip, you know, you can literally die from tripping on the curb when you're in your 70s. And that is kind of like what is happening now. If I run into a Jetfowl in this corridor-filled floor layout, it could just completely screw over my entire run. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm going to try to get through this floor without taking any unnecessary risks. This episode, I'm going to wrap up my discussion of camera angles and the different types of gamers. Last episode I said that achievers are pretty easy to type. They like kind of a middle third-person view, where you can see a difference between themselves or their character and the other characters in the game. I think I talked about Faxanadu, how I kind of like Faxanadu as much as I like Zelda 2. The gameplay in Zelda 2 is a lot better. The music, but the graphics in Faxanadu, specifically the fact that it shows the armor on your character, are a lot more impressive than Zelda 2. That's one of the depressing things about Zelda games from an achiever standpoint. You can see your heart meters grow and your maximum rupees. But a lot of times in Zelda, as you gain power, your sword and your armor, you don't really see that reflected in the sprite. Maybe a change of color at the most. But Link just kind of has his standard uniform on. And I guess they're trying to make an iconic character, but that turns off some achievers, I know. Oh, and another thing that achievers like is, of course, a difficult game. So, of course, I say of course a lot, don't I? Of course, Dark Souls 3 just came out. So that's a great game for achievers because they can say that they've beaten a difficult game, and it also shows all the armor on their character. So they can see all the rare armor displayed on their character and super overpowered weapons that they craft throughout the course of the game. So that's another game that achievers really like. But this episode, it's a little dangerous here. I don't want to lose my weapon. That would be another way to... This reminds me of another combo. I think I might have talked about this enemy combo before, but death metals plus tanks. Evil, promiscuous combo in this game. Because if a death metal knocks off your equipment, and there's a tank in the room, instantly, if it has a double attack, it can destroy the thing that the death metal knocked off. So you have to be super careful. Take care of this guy. Alright. They're all chasing the doppelganger. Hopefully I can take this guy before he catches up to it. Alright. Problem solved. This episode I want to talk real quick about socializers and explorers. Socializers will play any game as long as their friends are playing it and they can interact with their friends and ideally help their friends, because socializers, unlike killers, are a lot more interested in cooperative gameplay. You know, they like a game that, like people who play Minecraft as a group and they're just kind of like building something together. That's kind of a classic sort of socializer game. So they'll play a first-person game, they'll play a third-person game. Anything that has cooperative multiplayer, they'll play. And remember, we're going to work that into our real-time update of Shiren the Wanderer. There's going to be a cooperative mode, and that's very easy to do in real time. Let's see if there's any promising items here. Hey! Another melding jar. That's very nice. I don't know, Pants Weasel. You want to crack open my precious a little early? Whenever you see a melding jar, it's always tempting to be like, all right, maybe I should crack open the strengthening jar, meld some good stuff. It is tempting. However, I think I'm gonna resist. I'll try to go a little bit longer. Maybe later, I'll show you the trick of using a melding jar to meld together a bunch of staffs. It's nice. It gives you a staff that's ID'd and you know how many charges are on it. Plus, it opens up some spaces in your inventory. So it's always an option with the melding jar. You can meld together some of the common staffs you have, like postpone would be ideal. Any useful staff that you have a lot of. Boofoo. Although it's pretty rare that you have a ton of Boofoo staffs in Phase Final Puzzle. Yeah, socializers don't really care about camera angles, so as long as there's cooperative multiplayer, socializers are into it, or if the game is popular. I think I talked about Agario a little bit at the end of last episode. You'll see in Agario the different types of gamers illustrated really clearly. Killers, they love eating other human players. That gives them the most satisfaction. And they'll actually get angry at like a specific person that destroys them, and they'll go after them just to get that sort of feeling of dominating somebody. Achievers just want to be number one in that particular room or area. They want to be the biggest blob, and they'll eat the blobs that are like NPC blobs, and that gives them just as much satisfaction as as eating another player. And even in a room where everyone was like an NPC, I think an achiever would still get a sense of satisfaction for being the biggest blob. Socializers in that game, they will commit suicide if there's a blob in there that is controlled by someone they like, or they just happen to be feeling generous. They will actually just like run into a blob on purpose and kill themselves just to help out someone that they know who's in that room. And finally, explorers like me will just kind of explore the boundaries of the game. So sometimes I'll make myself just big enough to hide behind one of those little green spiky things, and then I'll eat someone who comes close. That's kind of like a trollish thing to do, but I think that's funny. Or I'll make a big forest of those green spiky things, and then I'll pop the biggest guy in the room as he goes by. He or she goes by. Just for fun. Or I'll introduce a bunch of chaos into a situation by popping someone that's just about to eat someone else, and then the situation will be reversed. I just like playing with the situations in the game. So I'm more of like a trolley explorer type of gamer in that Agario when I played it, and I got kind of bored with it after a while. But very simple game, but it appeals to all four different types of gamers. So it's a great game to study if you're into game design. And I don't actually get any satisfaction about being the biggest blob. I've done it a couple of times. I was just like, this is super boring. I'd rather be a little mobile blob that can like cause mayhem and do crazy stuff. Power up. So let's move on to the last two types of gamers. Or not the last two types, the last type. Socializers don't care about camera angles. Explorers care about camera angles. Generally, they favor a third-person high view, something that lets you sort of enjoy the vista a little bit more. But they will play a first-person view. I like playing first-person views, as long as the environment is able to be interacted with. That's the most important thing for an explorer. They want complexity as far as... Ooh. All right, let me take care of this tank. I'm gonna get shot to death while I'm talking about my own type of gamer. Make this tank rock hard. So I want an interactive environment. There's a lot of recent games that have awesome graphics. Last of Us. What's that choose your own adventure like survival horror game? It's like Resident Evil, except it's a bunch of teenagers. What's it called? I think it's called Before Dawn, I believe. It's something like Before Dawn. But graphics, amazing, amazing graphics. But the environments are like completely non-interactive. And that just frustrates the heck out of me. Even something like Grand Theft Auto has a lot of junk to do in the environment. A lot of these open world games have a lot of junk you can do, mini quests and stuff. for the most part, the environment is kind of static and there's not a lot you can change. So, alright, I don't want this guy. Oh, come on, dude, just die. Phew. I'm pretty late in the floor, so I was banking on the fact that a tank wouldn't come in, but that was a little risky. Even a game like Shiren, where the environments are super dull, I mean, it's just blocks. Because I can interact with the environment and change the geometry of the level, and the enemies can too, it's actually as, if not more interesting to me than, for me, than a game with a really beautiful, detailed environment like Last of Us, where most of the environment is just something that's just pretty. It's like pretty geometry that does nothing as far as the gameplay goes. So, I can appreciate a game like Before Dawn or After Us, or The Last of Us, but it's not my type of game as an explorer because the exploration is really not there. It's pretty linear and the environment isn't that interactable. Is that a word? You can't interact with the environment that much. So explorers want a camera angle that allows them to look at the environment closely and interact with it in a way that affects the gameplay. Alright, I do not want to be put to sleep while these two enemies are whacking away at me. Gotta be careful here. I'm almost 3/4 of the way through the dungeon though. That's pretty cool. This guy pokes me in the butt as a minor inconvenience. Boring. Alright. I learned my lesson with the Skull Demon. I am not gonna switch to the anti-drain armband. In fact, bitter herb. Guess I could use the bitter herb on the Skull Demon and just lower its level. I'd open up a space in my inventory here. I don't know, I could save it for something else and just leave it. Is it worth it for the experience? Not really. I think I'm just gonna leave it. If there's like a dead soldier, it could wake it up, but I'm almost at the point where I'm gonna start doing stair runs. I think around floor 80, cloud hermits that can hit you from anywhere in the floor start showing up. And then 86, I believe, are the dragons. So as soon as those two enemies show up and you're taking damage no matter what, no matter where you are on the floor, you kind of have to do stair runs unless you're just ridiculously overpowered or you have a recovery armband. That's not to say you can't mess around and explore the whole floor without overpowered equipment or recovery armband, but you're taking a big risk, and I'm trying not to take any big risks at this point. This isn't like the first time. The first time you win or beat a phase final puzzle run, you were just incredibly, incredibly nervous because you've never done it before and you know how long it's taken. So that first time, it's almost like not even enjoyable. You're just like so stressed out. But I've beaten phase final puzzle lots of times and I'm still slightly stressed out right now. So definitely that first time is just edge of your seat, nail biting experience. But I think hopefully I'm just gonna make it through this time. So that concludes my talk of the different types of gamers and camera angles. I went over the different camera angles I'm going to use, but hopefully you understand a little bit of the reason why now. Why we're going to use third person for achievers mainly, so they can see all the rare equipment equipped on their character. It's going to be give killers a chance to see attacks that their character is going to perform on the other characters, and that's going to give them a little thrill. Their super powerful attack and super powerful scroll, they'll see it make other characters weak. Socializers will be able to help out their friends, play cooperatively, record goofy sayings for the items. And explorers like me will be able to use first person for purse rummaging in real time. And they'll be able to... Oh, jet foul. Why you gotta scare me like that? And they'll be able to interact with the environment in meaningful ways and change the geometry. Alright, there's a whole other mode of the game that's going to be like a shop, a little Animal Crossing-ish, a little Castle Doctrine-ish. So you'll have like a museum and a shop that people can steal from. I am going to talk about that though next time because I'm 3/4 of the way through the dungeon. Woohoo! So we'll go over that homage to the original Mystery Dungeon when you were Tornico next week. I promise I will upload an episode. Even if I die, I will come back as a zombie and record an episode next week. I want to hold the sword inside you. I want to meld a shield or two. I look in you and I see power. If I have you, I'll make it through.
All the time, Grandma. It's no big deal.